Would you get in one of these cars if you could?
Yeah.
You drive it?
Yeah.
We preserve the stories of the 500. We preserve the cars and the artifacts of the 500. So we really are here to tell the story of the Indianapolis 500.
Ray Haroon won in the Marmon Wasp here. It took him 6 hours and 42 minutes to run the entire 500 miles. And at that time, the track surface wasn't smooth asphalt like it is today. It was 3.2 million bricks.
Well, the museum's about 100,000 square feet. What makes us a little unique is that we're within the confines of the Indianapolis 500. And if you Google anywhere the 10 most iconic sport venues in the world, the Indianapolis 500 track always comes up. And the fact that we're in the middle of it makes us incredibly unique, I think.
So we have the Marmon Wasp, but we also have the 2011 winner, 100-year difference. Just amazing to sit here and look and picture both drivers had to deal with during their respective races.
The pain and suffering that people went through to, to come up with a car that could win the Indy 500 is a phenomenal thing. The rearview mirror is another innovation that was on the very first car. But Ray Haroon was a very religious individual, and he didn't want to have a riding mechanic because he figured he didn't have the right to risk somebody else's life. So they said, well, you got to have a riding mechanic because how do you know if somebody's coming up behind you? Put a rearview mirror on the car. So there's a big triangular rearview mirror over the top of the cockpit, and that's how he got around not having a riding mechanic. Up until then, they'd never had a mirror on a car. They only had cars for about 10 years anyways, but it was still, little innovations like that. And the stories behind these cars and the little signs behind the cars can't do justice to the amount of stories that are behind these cars.
Our permanent collection, automobile-wise, extends farther than the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We have Formula One cars, we have early Indiana-built passenger cars, we have some non-500 race cars also, and then a few grand classics that round out our collection.
And they're not very light like they are now.
No. Aluminum and magnesium were the lightest components that they could find at the time for these vehicles. So in today's case, they could be almost 1.5 times heavier than what a car would weigh today. A lot of power, though.
Yeah,
a lot of power behind it.
Still a lot of power.
We have arguably the 2 most valuable cars in the world, but you got to pay a little bit more to see those. Those are down in the basement. About a month ago, we opened what we're calling the basement collection. There's probably 100 cars down there now, but you will see these 2 cars that, as I said, one has been valued at $70 million, another at $50 million. So arguably the 2 most valuable cars in the world. It's kind of our Hope Diamond, if you will.
The museum really incorporates different avenues here. The restoration guys, they do a great job in keeping these vehicles running, keeping the history alive, if you will, of these vehicles. We also opened our basement collection, which is an exclusive tour of our on-display exhibit vehicles. And we do temporary exhibits that last throughout the summer. So right now we have a Rocket Rick Mears exhibit that's open till March 2022, but we're always changing the place up with exhibits.
They didn't have grasp of the fact that someday, 40 years from now, this car's gonna be worth $1 million. They had no idea. It was old used up junk. Even some of the winning cars went on for 3 or 4 more years. And with guys that didn't qualify, crashed and turned to, all the reports, but it was last year's obsolete car. They sold it off to whoever wanted it. And it was usually a lower tier team or somebody that was starting to break in, didn't have the budget for a new car. They didn't think, ooh, we gotta preserve this thing and put it in mothballs or anything. They just, oh, we can get 20 grand for it, we can buy another motor. And the car just disappeared.
What do you race?
I race a micro sprint.
How many races a year do you run?
We're just getting into it.
Okay. What are your goals?
My goal is to win 3 times in a row.
You want to be the first 3-time in a row winner? That's a big feat. There's been a lot of great drivers to get close, but it takes a lot of determination and luck too. So you see yourself driving stock cars or Indy cars?
Probably 410 car.
Oh, for you? Oh, you wanted a sprint car. Okay.
Coolest car here, probably the 1912 National, the 500 winner from 1912, Joe Dawson's. You look at the wooden wheels on it and you roll it around, you hear the wheels creaking. You think, oh my God, the guys were going 90 miles an hour in this dumpster? It's like...
What else kind of takes your interest here?
Probably that Scott Dixon car down there.
Oh, you want to talk about the Scott Dixon car?
My dad works for him.
He works for him. This car is neat because it gives an opportunity for the guests to see what's inside an Indy car, because with all the body work and the aerodynamic design of them, it's hard to see that anymore.
Do you know why they chose this car?
Why they chose this car? It was a chassis that they weren't running anymore, and they went through to cut it up to show that, and then they put Scott's current livery on it. It's a little bit old. It's not a current car, but it still has a lot of the components that they use today.
I think one of the things I get the most out of this job is hearing the stories behind these cars as I work on them, and who did what, and where this idea came from, and you know, and who stole what idea from what, and combine it with some other idea and turn it into incredible race cars that dominated this race sometimes.
We'll be walking around the museum and you'll see something, you'll step over the ropes to touch something up or adjust something, and it's just like, you know, you got carte blanche and everyone looks at you, oh, what's he gonna do to that car? It's badass.
You know, what makes the Indianapolis 500 so special is, you know, with hard work and dedication and skill, you know, you could be out here battling for the win, and maybe one day we can have your car here as part of the museum exhibit.
I would really like that.
Yeah, it'd be good to see. Well, thanks for coming. I appreciate you checking out the museum, and love to hear about your future in racing.